to Dr. Shirko Jawdat, who has a background in statistics and development. He is currently a member of parliament and chairman of the Oil and Gas Committee in the Kurdish parliament.
سپاس بۆ زانکۆی ئەمریکی، سپاس بۆ سنتەری گەشەپێدان و سامانە سروشتیەکان. لە سەرەتاوە ئەمەوێ بەوە دەست پێ بکەم پێیان وتم کە لە ماوەی 10 دەقەیە کورتەیەک لەسەر بە مؤسسیکردنی کەرتی نەوت و غاز لە هەرێمی کوردستانە باس بکەم. هیوادارم لەو 10 دەقەیە بتوانم تەواو بم. دقەی ئەوەڵم بەوە دەست پێ یەکەم کە لەم ڕۆژانەیە دوایەوەی کە ویستمان بەدووادا چوون بکەم بۆ مەسەلەی تانکەرەکان لە هەندێک لە خاڵە گومرگیەکانە، لە ڕێ شوانێکم بینی شەمشاڵی کوردەواری لێدا بۆ مەڕ و ماڵاتەکەی خۆی و جەوێکی زۆر خۆشی هەبوو. بەڕاستی زۆر ناڵێم بەغیلیم پێ برد، بەڵام زۆر مشتاقی ئەو جەوە بووم. ناچار بووم لامدا لە لای سڵاوم لێ کرد وتم تۆ مەزعەت چۆن نەبینی؟ وتی وەڵاهی مامەسا کوردەڵێ لە دوای باران فەرەنجیم بۆ چییە؟ وتم جا تۆ ئەڵێی چی؟ بارانەکە تەواو بووە دەست لە خۆمان بشۆین یان؟ وتی وەڵا من لەوانەیە لە ئێوە باشتر بزانم ئەم کوردستانە چیتیایە لە سەرۆت و لە سامان، و هەمومان باشە زانین کە کورد قەت کۆڵی نەداوە و نەشکاوە. دڵنیام ئەم جارەش ناشکێ. لەبەرەوە هیوادارم ئێوەش کۆڵ مەدەن، ئومێد هەبێ ئەم فەرەنجیە هێشتا بارانەکە تەواو نەبووە، پێویستیمان پێیەتی. ئەتوانین فەرەنجی دروستکەین و ئەتوانین فەرەنجیمان دەستکەوێ، بەڵام ئەبێ وریابین ئەگەر خەمی دابینکردنی فەرەنجی نەخۆین جا هیوادارم ترانسلیتەرەکان مەسەلەی فەرەنجی بۆ ئینگلیزی نەبێتە مشکلە بۆیان. بەڵامی تر چی بکەم یعنی؟ وەڵحاصڵ وتی ئەتوانین فەرەنجی دابینکەین، بەڵام ئەگەر وریان نەبین دواتر بارانەکە ئەبێ بە لافا و هەمومان ئەبا. بەڵام ئەگەر بتوانین فەرەنجی دابینکەین لەوانەیە ئەو بارانە بتوانین ئاراستە بکەین بۆ گەشەپێدانی کشتوکاڵی و پیشەسازی و دەرەنجام، نەگەینە ئەوەی کە بڵێن لە دوای باران فەرەنجیم بۆ چیە. دیارە ئێمە لە پەرلەمان و لە لیژنەی پیشەسازی وزە و سەرچاوە سروشتیەکان و بە هەمان شێوەش لە لیژنەی داراییە کە من لە هەردووکیانە ئەندامم و سەرۆکی یەکێکیانم، هەر لە سەرەتاوە دەستمان کرد بۆی کە کاتێکە ئەڵێن بە مؤسسیکردن بەرەو شەفافیەت و لێپرسینەوە ڕۆیە و ڤژنی ئێمە بێ بۆ 4 ساڵی کارکردنمان لە پەرلەمان. یەکێک لەو چارەسەرانەی کە لە دوای دراساتی مەیدانی و لە دوای کۆنتاکت و هاوکاری لەگەڵ مؤسساتی زانستی و کەسانی مختص لەم بوارەیە پێیگەیشتین ئەوەیە کە یەکێک لە ئیشکالیاتە گەورەکانی تەنانەت کە ئەبعادی سیاسیشی هەبووە واتە پەلی هاویشتووە بۆ کێشمەکێشە سیاسیەکانیش مەسەلەی ڕەقەم. کاتێک کە ڕەقەم کەسێک ئەڵێ 600,000 بەرمیل ئەڕوا، ئیشیشی تر ئەڵێ نەخێر 500، ئەویتر ئەڵێ نەخێر ملیۆنە، بۆ ئەهێڵی ئاوا ڕەقەم ببێتە ئەو فاکتەرەی کە نەقسەی ئێمە بێ و نەقسەی یەکێکی تر بێ، ئەی بۆ ناوی سیستمی ئینەرجی مۆنیتەرینگ دانی کە ئەمە سیستمێکە لە هەموو دنیاە بەکار ئەهێنرێ، کێڵگە نەوتیەکان، بیرە نەوتیەکان، ئەمبارە نەوتیەکان، ئەو شوێنانەی کە مستەودەعاتن کە نەوتی تیا بەکار ئەهێنرێ هەمووی بە نێتوەرکینگ و بە تەکنۆلۆژیا کۆنتڕۆڵ ئەکرێ، زۆر بە ئاسانی دێتەوە سەر شاشەی کۆمپیوتەر و سەر شاشەکان، و دەرەنجام ئەتوانین بە ئاسانی بزانین چی دەرەچێ و چی بەرهەم ئەهێنرێت و بۆ چۆ ئەڕاو بەچێ ئەفرۆشرێ و چۆن ئەفرۆشرێ، کە ئەمەیە هەنگاوی تەکنۆلۆژی بۆ بەکارهێنانی مؤسسە لە پێناوی شەفافیەتە.
Qaywan Siwaili is a petroleum engineer by trade, an energy expert who currently works for the Kurdistan International Bank. He will focus on the industry, especially the fuel dimension. So, Dr. Qaywan Siwaili, you may speak from your seat or you may use the podium. Please. And of course, I should note to the speakers that we have a very tough lady with time slots, so she's going to show you the time. she scares me, so.
Ladies and gentlemen, in my presentation, I'm going to talk about challenges facing Kurdistan energy policy and strategy, and how to optimize our energy system. In my agenda, the current status of electricity in Kurdistan, crude oil price, everybody has been talking about that, existing oil and gas reserves, Kurdistan, Iraq, Kurdistan oil and gas production and infrastructure, and conclusion at the end of my presentation. Kurdistan energy issues. Demand in Kurdistan for electricity, crude oil, natural gas, and other fuel continues to increase. Everybody knows that. From 2007, yearly, sometimes we had more than 20%, which is unusual, but that was the situation in Kurdistan. Normally is between 2 or less than 2 in the other part of the world. But now we are facing providing less than 8 hours national electricity. More than 95% of KRG revenues from oil. This is the rentier state. And oil and gas price, as you know already, below 28 barrel and going lower. Let's look at the 3 forecasts. Standard Charter, as a bank, they told will be around $10 per barrel. And Royal Bank of Scotland, they are talking about $16. Morgan Stanley, they are talking about $20. That means we will have more than 70% of our revenue cut, this is the huge problem to us. Major oil and gas producers, because of oil price, not able or unwilling to increase their production and export capacity. That means our revenue will stay very low. Most PSA license holder complaining about daily of payment by oil revenue. This is caused by our government. Political crisis with Baghdad and political instability in KRG. This is key issues for the oil PSA license holders. No more investment in new capacities. This is all the priorities, problems, and solutions. We have to catch up the problems and find the solutions very urgent. Let's talk about energy. The current status of electricity, all power plants are producing now around 5,400 megawatts. Our demand is about 5,000, let's say 400 megawatts, but the actual average supply is around 2,700. But how much will be at the end users? That means less than 1,500 megawatts. Some of power plants are not working because of lack of fuel, gas oil, HFO, natural gas. If we are comparing the design capacity of our power plants and the actual electricity in our end users, there is more than 80% losses between generation and end user because of mismanagement, unpaid electricity, distribution line, losses in distribution line, more losses in local electricity infrastructure. This is existing facilities. We have very old 2 hydro plants in Dukan and Derbani Khan. Everybody knows about that. And after that, we put around 4 plants, Suleimania gas power stations, Erbil gas power stations, and Duhok gas power stations. There is around 4,000 megawatt electricity as a design capacity. This can be add more around 1,500, 1,200 to convert simple cycle to combined cycle. And there is other 4 plants, around 288 megawatts. This is internal combustion engines. The top was gas turbines. 51 megawatts, very close to us in Tasluja. There is 29 megawatts and 150 in Doak area. Unfortunately, most of them are not working now because of lack of gas oil and other fuels. This is the situation of generation of electricity by fuel in Kurdistan. We have 4,000 megawatt electricity or design electricity by gas power plants, but unfortunately, we are just producing 1,400 megawatts by using the gas because we have just 400 million cubic feet. That means when we convert it to other units, it's around 4 billion cubic meters. Some experts from KRG, 10 days before, they are talking about to export 20 billion cubic meters in 2017. I don't know where this figure are coming. We are just producing now 4 billion cubic meters a year. We started from 2007, till 2017, till 2016, what we have. Gas oil, we are using gas oil to produce 1,200 megawatts. If you are looking at that figure, we are losing every year around $3 billion because we didn't provide enough natural gas for our power plant. We have to use the gasoline or diesels. The power plant has been designed or connected with the gas field. There is some tanks for emergency case just to use diesel, but unfortunately, because there is not enough gas, we are running our power plants by using diesels. That means losing every year $3 billion. If we are just making 5 years, $15 million, we have lost already. If we would invest this $15 billion in the gas field, we had now enough gas to export as well. And there is some power plants are running by HFO, and we don't have any power plant which is running by crude oil. We could use it. There is some, associated gas is going to be flared every year. This is also $1 million, which we are losing already. The substitution between fuel types, such as natural gas to diesel, which I already talked about that, there is bring you some scenarios. That means energy mix, we shouldn't depend on one sources. We have to have several sources. For example, we have to talk, this has to be studied by the government. We have to talk about the price, environment, and availability. Status of Kurdistan electricity, problems and solutions. We have to put a huge number of substations, 11 kVs, 33, 132, and 400 kVs. To avoid more losses, we have to have new programs to upgrade our connections to 400 kVs just to avoid more losses. The distribution network is old and needed to be renewed and replaced at the same stage. In this part is 25 of our losses is there. The electricity measuring systems, this is required because there is a lot of unpaid electricity, which is, we put it in the part of electricity losses. The master plan for developing these sectors and fuel management, which is very, very important, is needed very urgently. Crude oil, this is everybody is talking about that from Zakho to Khanaqin, all 5 million. The ups and downs, this oil price cycle is not new. Everybody knows that. In the facts, in the fourth, if you are looking at that, this is the yearly average oil price, dollar per barrel. This is the fourth cycles in our generations. The important thing is it's the drop shapes like V, like that one. I think it's not working. It's like that one. This has to be studied. It's like W, it's like U, it's like L. What will be an oil price recovery look like? Is like V or others? or is like L, I am afraid to believe and say this oil price drops is like very long L. That means this case has to be very carefully studied and think about it.
Dr. Kaiwan, I'm sorry to use my prerogative, but the panel has shifted a little bit, so if you could wrap up very quickly. Thank you.
Yes, I will. Thank you. This is the gas. This is the oil resource, proven oil resources, which is not so, everybody knows that. In this chart is important, just look at the Turkey. They are producing just 65,000 barrels per day. This is, the consumption of the whole Turkey is around 700 barrels per day. This is very important. We have to think about it. Turkey is our neighbors. We can use it as a very good market, and this is the open door for other parts of the world. For example, for the Europe, this is a huge gas market in the world. Turkey is producing nothing, gas, and Turkey is they need around 45 billion cubic meters a year gas. And we have, for example, if you are looking at the gas reserves, Iran, Russia, Qatar, they are having 50% of the whole gas in the world. That's why between these big countries, the gas situation has to be studied. How can we survive between this, which they're having the half of all the world resources. This is the way how, through Turkey, we can reach the biggest gas market in the world, which is Europe. This is the infrastructures in Kurdistan. The big joke here, let me to introduce you, Smil gas field has been built for power plant in Duhok. They built 50 kilometers pipeline. They built a gas purification plant. And at the end of the day, by first gas ceremony, they realized there is no gas in the field. This is the big joke in the world. And new gas pipeline between Kurdistan and Kirkuk has to be built. This is very important for us just to reach Turkish market and European market as well. This is the oil situation in Kurdistan. Oil reserves is around 50 billions. Gas reserves is around 200 trillion cubic feet. Today, Kurdistan is producing, according to MNR, is producing 600,000. Future, we have to, they are telling us they are producing 1 million barrels by 2017 and 2 million by 19. The limited point in that area, we talked about lack of investment, limited capacity by the pipeline, which we don't have already. And usage of gas, we are just using for part of electricity generation. We need it as an industrial fuel, for example, for our cement factories, just to avoid environment impact and others. Commercial and domestic space heatings to avoid electricity, to use the electricity as a heating resource. This is very wrong physically and economically as well. And the other future, increased supply for electricity, which we already talked about that. We have a lot of gas. Chanchamal field has to be developed, Miran, Germian, and Karachuk, and other fields as well. And in Khormala. Conclusions, usage of gas for power generations instead of diesels. For example, when we use it, we are saving every year $4 billion, and there is a capacity to produce 4 gigawatt electricity. Switch simple cycles to turbine cycle. This is we are saving for fuel, and we are increasing efficiency. We are saving fuel cost. There is a potential of 3 gigawatt electricity. Build more dams, which is very important for us. Reduce all losses in generation, whatever distribution, control of consumption. Reduce electroheating. Conclusion, last conclusion, reduce gas flaring, maximizing liquid recovery just to increase our import capacity. Gas field has to be developed in 2 stages. First of all, to put early production facility to generate very urgent gas for local consumptions, for cement factories, for power plants, and full development jointly with international companies, swapping some part of products which we don't need it to give to others and take the others. And for example, techno-economic studies has to be done for the gas, future gas needs, petrochemical fertilizers, it's very important. Export, if it's available, I'm not talking about 2017 to export 20 billion cubic meters. In 10 years, if you are working day and night, we will be able to send some figures like 4 or 5. And highly, the export of gas and oil to the Turkey, because this market is quite important, and our neighbors, that was the key important things which I try to talk about that. Thanks a lot for your time.
Now, let's zoom out and look at the global picture. And Christy Miller is going to help us with a bigger picture of the industry.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests and panelists, thank you for having me here today. I'm Christy Milner. I'm an econ officer, economic officer at the U.S. consulate in Erbil. But most of my experience and background has been in the private sector. I joined the diplomatic corps in 2007, but before that I was a lawyer in Houston, where I was a lawyer for mostly international oil companies, or I was at a law firm with IOCs as clients. So I really have a better understanding of the private sector than I do of the government. So my talk to you today is going to be about, from a business standpoint and an economic standpoint, not really from a political standpoint. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I see as successes of this government in the energy sector, some things that they could have done better, and some things that they could do in the future. As I said, this will be mostly from a business and economic standpoint. If I should stray into the realm of opinion, political opinion, it is strictly my own personal opinion and does not reflect the opinion of the U.S. government. So it's very exciting to be here in this region at this time. This region is going through a very transformational period. The potential here in the energy sector is enormous, but it's just getting started. And as Consul General Mittman said, the energy wealth here, the energy and the natural resources here are both a blessing and a curse. The KRG has done a very good job, in my opinion, of kickstarting the development of the energy sector here. They emulated some of the best practices around the world in terms of reducing the level of bureaucracy necessary to get international oil companies to come in here and operate, and in terms of the contractual structure, which was more standard in the industry than for example, Baghdad's oil service agreements. And by doing this, they were able to come up with contracts that would serve them well, really, in terms of sharing the risks and the rewards of development in good times and bad. And Kurdistan's relatively safe environment compared with southern Iraq and these favorable production sharing contract terms allowed the region to attract the international oil companies like Exxon and Chevron and Total to the region, despite the strenuous objections from Baghdad. Now, whatever you think about that from a political standpoint, from a development standpoint, from a business standpoint, that was a pretty enormous accomplishment. It really put Kurdistan on the map of global oil production. But on the other hand, it ultimately resulted in cutoff of revenue from Baghdad and alienation from Baghdad, which in turn, along with some other things, including the drop in oil prices, started this downward spiral that you're in today. And ultimately, it meant that these oil companies that had been investing in these fields and that are now producing 300,000 barrels a day, if you don't count the Kirkuk fields, are not getting paid, and that is very bad for business. So my first point is that to attract investment, you have to have commercially reasonable terms, and the companies have to have some assurance that they will be able to recoup their investment and make a profit. Also, the IKR to Turkey pipeline was a bold and controversial decision, but it did save the day in 2014 and in 2015 after terrorists sabotaged the Iraq-Turkey pipeline and Daesh took over the Beji refinery. It provided an export route for oil in the Kirkuk area that otherwise would have been stranded. And of course, but for the Peshmerga troops, most likely all of Kirkuk, including the oil fields, would now be in the hands of Daesh. However, now these fields are not being fully developed. KRG is operating some fields in the north, and INO's North Oil Company is operating some fields in the south. And this is a giant mega field. This is a huge field, the type that gets the attention of the super majors. There's a huge swath of area kind of in the middle there that's not being developed. British Petroleum had a contract for seismic and other development work there that has been stymied because of at first because of the security situation, but now because it's in dispute who's going to control those fields. This is one of those areas where Consul General Mittman talked about a win-win situation, or a situation where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. If the KRG and Baghdad could reach some kind of agreement for sharing the revenue or sharing the development, some sort of joint operating agreement for this huge field, it would definitely be for the benefit of everyone concerned. And until an agreement is reached, it is not likely that this field will be developed, because nobody's going to go in there and make the investment necessary to do it. Now, on the gas side, the KRG has had some notable successes as well. The fast track of the Khormor gas field in 2008 was a remarkable achievement. In just a little over 16 months, the Pearl Consortium that is operating that field constructed a gas plant and laid 176 kilometers of natural gas transmission pipeline through mine-laden territory and started sending gas to power plants. This now provides about 60% of the electricity in this area. It was a tremendous boost to the economy and to the industry, and it was a fantastic achievement. However, then they stumbled. Gas development stalled when the KRG and the developers of these fields got into a dispute about the contractual terms. This ultimately has ended up in arbitration, and regardless of the merits of the case and who wins or who doesn't win, it's a huge opportunity loss to not go forward and develop these fields. So I really hope this is a dispute that can be resolved quickly. Now, the Ministry of Natural Resources has announced plans to develop the Benabawa and the Miran fields, along with the Turkish Anglo company Genel, for export to Turkey. And if that project goes through, first gas should start to flow in 2018, soon to ramp up to ultimately 20 billion cubic meters per annum. According to Genel's projections, the KRG would realize $30 billion over a 20-year period. There are many hurdles to overcome on this project. Not everyone agrees that Kurdistan region should be exporting gas to Turkey. And in addition, there are technical issues, such as a high sulfur content, that need to be worked out. However, if this project goes through, it will be a big boost to gas development because it will allow the development of the infrastructure in the region, the gas pipelines and the processing plants necessary to connect not only these fields, but the Chamchamal, the Cormor, several fields that have recently been discovered and are not connected to any outlet for the gas. In the electricity sector, you've heard a lot about that, and this is, and I won't repeat, of course, the development of the underdevelopment of the gas sector is now impacting the electricity sector because there's not enough gas to power the power plants, so they have to rely on diesel fuel, and at a huge cost to the government. So this electricity sector is another area where a little bit of investment could pay some huge dividends. Now I want to talk just for a minute about the future of oil prices. As I said, I've been involved in the energy business for over 40 years and associated with it in one way or another. I can't remember a time when I didn't know what the price of West Texas Intermediate crude was. When I started working as a lawyer in Houston in 1979, oil prices were $40, $50 a barrel. This was right after the Arab oil embargo, and they had come up, or starting to come up, from a long history of $20 a barrel. Pretty soon, they went up to almost over 120 a barrel. Now, I was a young lawyer working in the energy business at the time, and boy, I thought I was smart. You know, it was easy to make money in those days. Real estate was booming, housing prices were going up. All you had to do was get out of bed and go to work, and you could make money. Thank you very much.
Thank you.